200. That's the amount of subs we got in the last 2 days. Crazy. Do you know how long it took me to get my first 200 subs? That took me months. And now we're doing that in a matter of 2 days. That is absolutely mental. I really do appreciate you all so much. Anyway though, welcome to the video, investors. It is your boy Jack. If you're not a part of the family that we have going on here, hit that red button right now, the same color as this jumper. Drop the video a like and drop me a comment. Get to know me. I reply to every single comment. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of April, and I'm making today's video on Boeing and Airbus, seeing which one I think is the better stock if you are to buy one, because tomorrow both of these companies are releasing their Q1 earnings. Tomorrow, when these earnings come out, depending on whether they're better or worse than we expect them to be, it is more than likely going to have a big effect on how the stock will move. A lot of people will be buying today if they believe that tomorrow's earnings are going to skyrocket the price up, if they believe that the Q1 earnings aren't going to be as bad as people expect them to be. On the other hand, people may sell today if they expect, worse than expected earnings, so that they can then buy again tomorrow at a cheaper price. That's why I'm making this video today, is just to compare the two and see if we could only buy one, which one would it be, considering tomorrow is more than likely going to be a very volatile day, and both of these stocks have been extremely volatile the last month and a half, 2 months. At the end of this video, let me know your thoughts on either of these companies in the comment section down below. But anyway, let's get straight to the comparisons. So in case you don't know what these guys actually do, because I know some people are a little bit confused, this is what they do. They're an aerospace manufacturer. So what that entails is commercial airplanes, defense, space and security, and Boeing Global Services. So commercial airplanes, that's their Boeing 737s, the 747s, we all know about them. Defense, space and security, design, produces and supports military rotorcraft, satellites, human space exploration. That's another aspect of the business. And then global services, aftermarket maintenance and service support for military and civilian customers around the world. But the main thing these guys are known for is making their Boeing airplanes. You've probably flown on one before. And Airbus do very similar things. So December 2017, nearly 11,000 aircrafts delivered, around 12,000 helicopters, and they're the second largest space company in the world. What both of these people do essentially is make things that fly. Whether it's a plane that you or me get on to go on holiday, or it's a plane for the army, they make things that fly. So now we have a comparison chart. So Airbus is the blue line, and then obviously Boeing is the grey line. Starting off with the 6-month chart, we can see that these two companies have both done extremely similarly. They're both sitting down right around the 60% mark. Boeing has been hit a little bit harder, 3.5% or so harder, not very much whatsoever. When we go over to the 1-year chart, we can see that Boeing's had a terrible year all in all. Now, I will show you exactly why. It's because in March of 2019, the aviation authorities worldwide grounded the Boeing 737 MAX passenger airline after 346 people died in 2 plane crashes. So obviously, absolutely horrible stuff. I mean, 346 people dying is horrific. It's horrible. And you can obviously imagine what that's going to do to the company. All of their Boeing 737 MAX had to be grounded. They're taken out of the air. Any orders that were in for these guys, cancelled. They're not making them anymore. So that's why Boeing have had a really bad year. And we can see that we're still down 65% year over year. And that's such a stark contrast. If we go back to 5 years ago, look at the absolutely immense growth that these guys were seeing. Well in excess of $400 a share, close to that $450 mark, and now boom, they're all the way down to $134. And this is down to 2 reasons. So one is obviously the virus that's going on right now. It's hitting everybody. Nobody's ordering new planes. All of the airlines are just trying to survive. The last thing they're thinking about is going and buying new planes. And then what happened just over a year ago with the Boeing 737 MAXes. So that explains why Boeing have done considerably worse this year than Airbus have. But ultimately, now they're almost in the same position. Yes, Airbus is still considerably higher, in the yearly perspective. Let's go to 3 years, and in a 3-year chart, now Boeing is doing an awful lot better. Boeing's down 30%, Airbus is down 52%. 5-year chart, Boeing's down 11.14%, Airbus is down 45.7%. 10-year chart, Boeing's up over 100%. Airbus is still down 14.5%. And on the max chart, Boeing is up 1,570%. Airbus is only up 167%. So it's important to remember going forwards now that historically, Boeing have performed better than Airbus. The last year, they definitely did not, but historically, they most definitely have. Here is a couple of pieces of information, one for each company that I want to touch on. So, Boeing abandons a $4.2 billion deal with Brazil's Embraer. We'll get into that. So Boeing was essentially going to buy these guys, Embraer, an aviation business over in Brazil. Then Boeing came out and said that the Brazilian jet makers failed to meet certain conditions. But the reason they were doing this was try to stay on par and stay ahead of Airbus. And what happened was they agreed to pay that amount for 80% stake in these guys. But now, their market cap has fallen to about 1 billion because of the virus. So it would have made no sense to spend that 4.2 billion. when it has a 1 billion market cap. That would be a ridiculous thing to make. So for us shareholders, it's good because now that is an extra 4.2 billion that Boeing have. And obviously cash flow is going to be the most difficult challenge that Boeing are to face going forwards. So every little helps, and 4.2 billion is definitely not just a little. And Boeing, just like an awful lot of other people, need that bailout from the government. And right now they're looking for 60 billion from the government. It would not look very good if they got 60 billion from the government and then sent 4.2 billion of that overseas straight away. Now on to Airbus for a second. The Airbus CEO says plane maker is bleeding cash. So that's a very disgusting headline. We're bleeding cash at an unprecedented speed, which may threaten the very existence of our company. When the CEO is saying that, that is not something to be taken lightly. CEOs are the face of the company, and they are meant to be painting the company in a good light. When I watched the CEO of NAT on CNBC with Jim Cramer, I love the man, and he gave me so much confidence. The way that Delta CEO came across on his Q1 earnings report, he's so professional, he makes everything sound very promising. If a CEO is openly coming out and saying things like this, it's a very bad sign in my opinion. Now obviously he's not just admitting defeat, he says we must act now urgently to reduce our cash out, restore our financial balance, and ultimately to regain control of our destiny. The survival of Airbus is in question if we don't act now. Just the underlying tone of this very short paragraph is very poor. Now they are taking action, obviously they have to, or else the company just disappears out of thin air. They just furloughed 3,200 staff, and this month the firm announced it was cutting aircraft production by a third. So right off the bat, I much prefer the look of Boeing than I do Airbus. They have been hit harder, and that's not always a bad thing. We like to buy stocks when they're undervalued, when they're at a big discount. The worst could very well be yet to come. I would be in no way surprised if they drop another 30+%. Right now Boeing's at 134 and they've already been down as low as just below 100. Depending on what happens tomorrow, depending on what happens when these earnings come out, I could well see the stock over the next few weeks, even few months, going down definitely sub 100, even towards 80, 70 or so dollars. I've seen some people say that they could see it go as low as $60, so please just don't get excited. As always, you need to form your own opinions, do your own evaluations, and decide what price point you personally would be happy to get in at. Don't listen to me, I'm not a financial advisor. Funnily enough for Boeing, I think this is a great price long term. But short term, I think it's an absolutely horrendous price. Again, I could be completely wrong, tomorrow could be amazing, and they could fly up to the moon. Boeing is a company I want to get into, but I don't want to get into them at $130. Very similar things could be said for Airbus, but I could see their potential loss going forward being much higher. The CEO himself essentially hinted that there's a chance of bankruptcy. If the CEO is saying things along those lines, it does not paint a good picture whatsoever. So with me personally, I will not be touching off Airbus with a 10-foot stick for the foreseeable future. Now obviously things can always change, some news could come out, but right now, given the information I have, no chance I'll be touching off them. We just look at some of the recent news. Airbus is furloughing 6,000 staff in Europe and bleeding cash. Airbus warns drastic cuts are needed. Boeing abandons $4 billion deal, which is good. That's what we want, so that's actually good news. I just see absolutely nothing positive for Airbus right now, whereas I do see positive things happening for Boeing. So be it there's an awful lot more negative things happening, but at least there is some positives. And another thing to keep in mind about Boeing is they work with the Pentagon. Boeing wants a government bailout, the Pentagon already gave it one. As far as I can tell, we don't know exactly how much money either Airbus or Boeing are going to be getting, but I do have this information here. The $2 trillion stimulus package approved last month includes a $17 billion loan program that does not mention Boeing by name, but was crafted largely for the company's benefit. So more than likely, Boeing will be getting some sort of bailout from the government, but we're not too sure yet. And here is the line: businesses critical to maintaining the national security. That is Boeing. They provide the Pentagon with military planes. Remember this here, where Boeing is in defense, space and security. They have refueling tankers, Apache helicopters, Hornet jet fighters. The government needs these things, and so they could be seeing as much as $17 billion in relief. I can't find any information saying that Airbus is going to get any sort of a bailout. And Boeing have already come out and requested $60 billion for the aerospace industry. And board member Nikki Haley, whoever that is, Trump's former US ambassador to the United Nations, thought it was laughable. So this more than likely isn't happening. They may receive something, but it's more than likely going to be nowhere near that 60 billion point. So it doesn't look likely that Airbus will get any sort of bailout, but Boeing very well could do. Airbus do have about 32 billion in liquidity as of right now. They're 12 billion in financial assets at hand and 8 billion in undrawn credit lines, further bolstered by the conversion of an existing 5 billion credit line into a new facility worth up to 15 billion. So they have a potential 32 billion on hand, but the CEO came out after this was released and essentially said that they're burning through it. I don't see anything that Airbus has that Boeing doesn't have right now. I don't see any selling point for Airbus. I don't see why I would ever invest in them when Boeing exists. I don't get it. Obviously, I don't know everything. I could very well be missing something super obvious, but to me, Boeing just looks like the much better pick. And Boeing, to me, as I said earlier on in the video, is actually a company I want to buy. I just don't want to spend $130 for a share of them. I expect the recovery of both of these companies to be much slower than average, but when they start recovering, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I mean, just look at the growth Boeing has had the last 5 years, obviously up until last year, but look at the growth levels. It was so fast. I'm very excited to see what happens tomorrow. Without a doubt, I'm going to be scouring these Q1 earnings for both of these companies tomorrow, and who knows, it may well change my mind. I may have to make a follow-up video. We will see what happens. We've seen it before where these earnings come out and just nothing happens. So that is where I stand right now. I would not buy either of these companies at the prices they're currently at, but I may very well buy Boeing at some stage in the future if it gets to a price that I would be happy buying it at. I don't see myself ever buying Airbus unless something crazy happens, unless Boeing disappears off the face of the earth, then I'd consider. Please do let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Obviously, if I missed any important information, drop it. People read the comments, you interact with each other. They'll appreciate it. I don't know everything. If you did enjoy, please do leave it a like, subscribe if you are indeed new around here. The growth, again, has been absolutely immense lately. I appreciate you all so much. Until the next one, hope you all have a great day, stay safe, and I will speak to you in the next one. Peace.